Something significant happened this past weekend at Martinsville, the kind of moment that tends to linger in conversation long after the race ends. Not just for what unfolded on the track, but for what it could mean going forward. Two storylines emerge from this race, and they're closely intertwined. One is about a split-second decision that dramatically altered a driver's season trajectory. The other is about how the NASCAR community has responded to it, and people aren't holding back. This is the kind of situation that reveals exactly how quickly things can fall apart in NASCAR, and why emotions can either make you or completely derail your season. What happened on track? This all went down at Martinsville, and the center of it is Bubba Wallace and Carson Hocevar. With roughly 15 laps remaining, tensions were already running high. Earlier in the race, Hocevar had made an aggressive three-wide move into Turn 1 on a restart, a bold choice at Martinsville, where that section of track leaves almost no room for error. Denny Hamlin addressed the move on his podcast, noting that while it wasn't against the rulebook, it was the kind of move that makes other drivers uneasy. On restarts at Martinsville, everyone has to brake earlier than usual heading into Turn 1. Hocevar tried to exploit that by diving to the inside and forcing himself three-wide, and Bubba Wallace didn't appreciate it at all. What followed was a decision that changed everything. Rather than taking a step back and thinking about the bigger picture, Wallace chose to retaliate. He made contact with Hocevar, but the result wasn't a clean message sent. Instead, it triggered a multi-car incident that effectively ended Wallace's day. He finished 36th. The cost was enormous. A driver who arrived at Martinsville sitting third in the point standings left in 11th, with 8 positions gone in a single moment. After the race, Wallace acknowledged that he hadn't intended to hit Hocevar as hard as he did, saying he misjudged his entry into the corner. But the optics told a different story, and that is exactly why insiders started reacting the way they did. How the NASCAR world reacted. Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic were among those expressing genuine disbelief at the decision. Gluck described it as one of the most puzzling calls of the entire season, and it is easy to understand why. Wallace was having a genuinely strong year, sitting third in points and putting himself firmly in the championship conversation with a quiet top 15 finish and a clean points day right there for the taking. Bianchi pointed to the emotional dimension, the frustration of being taken advantage of on a restart, and letting that frustration override good judgment entirely. In NASCAR's current point structure, every single position carries real weight, and now, instead of controlling his own path near the top of the standings, Wallace finds himself tied at 206 points, with drivers like Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, and Chris Buescher, all of them ready to gain ground on any misstep. The hardest part to watch as a fan is this. The frustration was understandable, and even wanting to send a message was understandable. But was it worth sacrificing a solid finish, damaging the car, and dropping 8 spots in the standings? What comes next? Going forward, the next race becomes especially important for Wallace, because now it is not just about raw pace anymore. It is about demonstrating that this was an isolated lapse and not a pattern. Because NASCAR has a way of punishing drivers who let emotions steer the car instead of their instincts and experience, and right now, that is exactly what cost him. This is one of those moments that could either light a fire under him or quietly derail what was shaping up to be one of his best seasons. My take on all of this is fairly straightforward. I understand why Bubba Wallace was frustrated. What Hocevar did on that restart was aggressive, and at Martinsville, that kind of move is always going to upset people. But this is precisely where experience and discipline have to take over. When you are running third in points and having one of the best seasons of your career, that is not the moment to prove a point. That is the moment to think big picture. Because in today's NASCAR, championships are not built on speed alone. They are built on consistency and control. And in that moment, Bubba let emotion win, and it cost him big. At the same time, this is not the end of anything for him. He is still right there in the standings, still tied in points with some of the best drivers in the field, and one strong race can put him right back in the mix. So now it becomes a real test of character. Does he come back focused, smarter, and more controlled, or does this moment start to snowball into something larger? The competition around him is not waiting around, with Larson, Keselowski, and Buescher all within striking distance and ready to capitalize on any mistake. That is how tight this championship fight truly is right now, and moments like what happened at Martinsville do not just disappear. They can define a season if you let them. The speed is clearly there, the potential is clearly there, and now it is simply about keeping everything under control when it matters the most. That is what separates good drivers from championship contenders, and we are about to find out exactly which one this season turns out to be for Bubba Wallace.